everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Darian and today we're going to be talking about some underrated book recommendations. So today I have 5 book recommendations for you guys. These are 5 books that I have either rated 4 or 5 stars, and all 5 of these books have under 5,000 ratings on Goodreads, and personally I think that is a crime. I love all of these books so much and I would really love to see more people reading them, so let's just get into it. So I'm gonna start with the book that has the most ratings out of these 5 and then count down to the one that has the least amount of ratings. Spoiler alert, it's a book I love a lot. That is one of my favorite books of this year. So you can try to guess what book that is. Also, I apologize for this lighting. This is what we're working with today. I am so sorry. But the first book I have to talk about is The Romantic Agenda by Claire Kahn. This book, at the time I'm filming this, has 3,638 ratings on Goodreads, so a decent amount, but not enough for my liking. Now, this did come out, I believe, last June, so it's only been a little over a year. However, I wish more people would read this book. This is an adult romance following an asexual main character. You're following Joy, who is kind of caught in this love square, basically. She has been in love with her best friend Malcolm for over 10 years and he has never seen her that way, and he's always telling her about the women that he is interested in. So Joy has kind of given up hope that he will ever love her back, and then one day Malcolm asks her for a favor. He asks her to go on this weekend lake trip with him and the girl that he's interested in and that girl's best friend. And that's when we meet Fox, who Joy kind of is a little interested in, and he might be interested in her. But what about Malcolm? She's liked Malcolm her whole life. That's basically the situation. I loved this book. I felt so seen reading this book, and it makes me really sad that more people haven't read this because I feel like people see that it's an asexual main character and they're put off right away. First of all, I want to say that just because a book centers around an asexual main character doesn't mean there won't be smut in it, because surprise surprise, asexual people still have sex. Like, that's such a common misconception in the asexual community. But anyways, just because there's an asexual main character doesn't mean there won't be smut in the book. But this book is really not smutty at all because Joy does not really want to have sex, and that is perfectly fine and that is perfectly valid, and it makes me really sad that this kind of romance doesn't interest people. And I know that, like, if you'd rather read books that are more smutty, like, that's fine, that's your opinion, but I feel like stories like this are really worth giving a chance because we deserve our love stories too. And I thought this was a beautiful love story, and I loved the representation of asexuality in this book. I thought it was a really important book and I loved it, so I would love it for more people to read it. And I know this cover screams summer, but this time of year is actually a great time to read it because I feel like the time where it transitions from summer to fall is like the best lake season. So this is the perfect time to read this book, so highly recommend. So the next book is Blood Scion by Deborah Fillet. This book currently has 3,178 ratings, so honestly I was really surprised seeing that number. I thought this book was more popular than apparently it is. This came out at the beginning of 2022, I think. So in this book you're following our main character Sloane, and she is a scion, which basically means she has powers that were descended from the gods, and in this world it is extremely dangerous to be a scion. If you are found out to be a scion, you will immediately be killed. So she has kept her identity a secret for her whole life, and her mother has gone missing, also trying to keep her identity a secret. We have no idea what happened to her mother. And when Sloane is 15, she is conscripted into the army and she is forced to do some pretty awful things. This book is YA, but honestly I would say it leans more towards new adult just because there's a lot of very gruesome things that happen in this book. This book reminded me a lot of An Ember in the Ashes just because that series is also YA, but there's a lot of really dark elements to that book. Not that YA books can't be dark, but I'm just saying, the violence seemed more new adult than YA to me, but I thought this book was so well written. I loved Sloane as a main character. She was such a girl boss, and I just loved this book so much. First of all, this cover is stunning. This is the Fairy Loot edition. It is stunning, but the regular edition is also beautiful, and I'm sad that more people haven't picked this book up. The sequel comes out I can't remember when. I think it's in 2024, so that's very exciting. But I can't wait to continue this. I think it's just a duology. Can't wait to continue this duology and finish it up, and I really urge more people to read this book because it is so just vivid, and I also just felt so stressed the whole time I read this, but in the best way. Like, you just care for these characters right away, and the situations they are put in are just crazy, and you will be on the edge of your seat during this whole book, I promise. So definitely pick this one up. The next book coming in at only 2,460 ratings is The Channel Legacies by Abdi Nazemian. This was one of my favorite books from last year. I adore this book so much. If you're looking for a dark academia book to read this autumn, she's right here. I know this cover doesn't scream dark academia. I mean, you can clearly see the boarding school, but it doesn't seem dark. But trust me, this book, basically you're following these 5 students who are chosen to be in this very like exclusive writing group at this boarding school. This takes place, I think, in 1999, and as these students get together, get to know each other, work on their writing together, they kind of start to learn about the dark underbelly of their boarding school and how there is a long-standing history of abuse at this boarding school. This book touches on topics like SA and abuse in general, abuse of power, and racism and homophobia, and I just thought it was such a great book. I like Blood Scion, I immediately cared about these 5 characters so much. I just wanted the best for them. Also, this book is very queer, and I love that. I think like 4 out of the 5 of these students are queer, which is amazing, obviously. But yeah, if you're looking for a dark academia vibe, like, this book is right here. It is so good, and I never see anybody reading it. Abdi Nazemian wrote like a love story, which is more popular than this one. I really liked that book, but this book was 5 stars. No question about it. I loved it so much. So I just highly recommend you guys pick this one up because it definitely needs more love. Okay, next with 2,305 ratings. I think we all knew this book was coming, but Beyond the Black Door by A.M. Strickland. I adore this book. We all know this. It's one of my favorite books of all time. I read this book 2 years ago now, I think. I can't believe it's been that long. I definitely need to reread it, but it has just stuck with me since then. You're following this girl, Kamai, who is a soul walker, which basically means when people are asleep, she can travel into their souls, and her mother, who was also a soul walker, has always told her, if you ever come across a black door in someone's soul, never open it. But then her mother tragically passes away, and she sees the black door, and she's like, what if I just opened it? And then a whole bunch of shenanigans ensue, and I just thought this was such a great book. It is a standalone fantasy, which I feel like we don't see very often these days, and I loved the world that A.M. Strickland created. Their worlds are always so like queer normative. Kamai is discovering her asexuality. Can you see a theme with these underrated books? Anyway, but yeah, she's discovering her asexuality, and the way that sexuality and gender is discussed in this book, I just adored it. It brought me to tears. There's also a trans character who is very significant in this book, and I loved just seeing their story. Oh my god, it was just, this book means so much to me, and if you ever get any recommendation from me, aside from Strange the Dreamer, I think you need to read this book because it just means so much to me. This book holds such a big part of my heart, and I just want everyone to read it, and it just means a lot that there's this fantasy out there that has an asexual main character, and no one is reading it. Like, please. I'm literally begging, please read this book. It is so, so good. And the final book that I have to talk about today, which has a whopping 937 ratings on Goodreads, and that is If It Makes You Happy by Claire Kahn. If you can't tell, there is a theme in this video. I love Claire Kahn's books, but this book I think came out in 2018 or 19, and it has less than 1,000 ratings. Like, what's that about? What's that about, guys? But this book, you're following this girl named Winnie, and I'm gonna be honest, this book has a lot going on in it. Like, did she pack way too much in this book? Maybe, but I loved the story. So this takes place during the summer, and Winnie is kind of trying to figure out her life a little bit. She is currently in a queer platonic relationship with this girl named Kara, and Winnie has also met this guy, I don't remember his name, but she has a little crush on him, but that's kind of complicating her relationship with Kara. And so while she's exploring her relationship with these two people, there's also this backdrop of this competition going on this summer where Winnie is kind of crowned I can't remember what the word is they use, but basically the queen, the royal of the summer like festivities, and Kara and this other guy, I don't remember his name, they compete for their chance to sit with Winnie on the throne. So you have that kind of fun element going on, but it's also a lot about Winnie and her experience with fat phobia, especially with coming from her grandmother. It's coming from a place of love, but her grandmother really does not know how to express her concerns for Winnie, and Winnie is very content with the body that she has, but you know, the world in general is fat phobic, and you're kind of going through her day-to-day life and all the microaggressions that she experiences. And I just really loved Winnie as a character. She is one of my favorite characters that I've read this year or ever. I loved the way that she just loved her body and loved who she was and was not taking shit from no one. There's a specific scene that has stuck with me that takes place in a doctor's office, and I just love that scene so much, and it makes me so sad that this book is not getting the attention it deserves because it is so diverse. It is about a queer, fat, black main character. You have a queer platonic relationship. It's just, I love it so much. I think everyone should read this book, especially if you like YA contemporaries, but even if you don't, even if you just want to read a nice story about a young girl just trying to figure herself out, I just loved it. I loved it. I really loved the love interest. I can't remember his name. I feel like it started with a J or a D, but I don't remember. I'll look it up after. Oh, also, there's a big thing about baking in this book that I just remembered, and I also just remembered there is a great relationship between Winnie and her brother, which I really appreciated because I'm also very close with my brother. So like I said, there's a lot going on in this book, but I just personally loved it, and I just want everyone to read it because it just deserves all the love, in my opinion. So those are 5 books that I think are underrated and that I think you guys should definitely pick up. Might as well pick some of these up for the fall season. I think some of these work great for fall season, but let me know what books you guys think are underrated and how many ratings they have on Goodreads. I think that would be fun to know. Or if you've read any of these books and you also think they're underrated, I would love to know that. I want to know who else has read these books. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon with another video soon. Bye!